we're not like spring chickens anymore. Exactly. So, if you want to crush it on the internet and you're, 12, 15, 17, 20, you're just going to get it faster than us. Pop and I are going to be over here like trying to fix the lighting. He's going to have his glasses on, and like you guys are just going to move faster. And so if we can help you by saying, all right, we learned a few things. The couple of things we learned are like, understand the language of money, which is deal making and finance, because no matter what business you do, whether the business is TikToking or makeuping or whatever it is, you got to understand this language. If you don't speak the language, it doesn't matter. And then you got to understand how do you negotiate. And then you've got to understand a couple of things like yourself, like that stuff inside of you. What do I really like doing? What makes me happy? Paired with what am I good at? 5'2", probably not gonna be a basketball player. Let's be a little honest. And then you pair that with the fact that you guys have tech at your fingertips in a way that we never did. It's amazing. No better time to be alive. Don't believe anybody that says otherwise. And even if we come into a really awful recession, which I think is a travesty how this all has been dealt with and where we've come, I think we have a lot of similar views on that. But, the world that you're coming into right now, for people that don't have debt hangovers and investment hangovers, which if you're young, you probably don't. You are coming in really fresh. And in this world, that means even if you don't have a ton of cash, you aren't negative cash. Mm-hmm. And so you should be looking at this environment like, man, now is the time to lean in. It's the time to build. It's the time to buy something. It's the time to partner with somebody to buy something. And no better time right now than to do it. And then pair it with content. Mm-hmm. Get the cash. Figure out the business model, pair it with some sort of content. And I think, next step, you got your ass, your PE, your titties, just like Kim Kardashian.
What else do you think people should be doing from like a defensive standpoint other than just living within their means?
Yeah, so this is a transition moment between offense and defense. I believe that you should have multiple streams of income. And here's where that becomes valuable. If you're someone that has multiple jobs, let's say, I have 9 jobs. At this moment, 9 jobs and multiple full-time jobs. If I don't like one of the full-time jobs, I can get rid of it. And if one of those full-time jobs don't like me, they can get rid of me. But it doesn't affect me as badly as if I only had one. And then if you structure these multiple streams of income to be, stocks or investments that pay dividends, real estate, that's rental properties, other passive sorts of income. You can really diversify. This is one of the spaces that I like to talk about diversification. A diversified revenue is a stronger revenue, in my opinion. So taking on more jobs, taking more responsibility, having assets that pay you dividends, both passive and actively, rental properties, etc. I love that strategy going into a recession, taking that list of 9 jobs that I have and always pressure testing them, saying, am I doing the right thing, the most effective thing with my most valuable resource, which is my time?
So taxes. Okay, so I mean, the easy stuff is everybody should have like a side hustle because if everybody has a side hustle, and as long as there's an intent to earn income with that side hustle, or ideally you actually earn some income, anything that you would ordinarily be spending money on could be a write-off. Like a phone is a necessary and ordinary expense for an entrepreneur, but if you're an employee and you're paying your own phone bill $100 a month, you're paying $100 a month in after-tax money. If you happen to have a side hustle and now you can write off that $100 a month, well, now you're saving in some cases 50%. Mm-hmm. So it's like getting a 50% off coupon code on all of these crazy expenses. Mm-hmm. Your car, your phone, that laptop that you need, right? Whatever. Like that, I think bare minimum, everybody should have some form of a side hustle for that purpose.
You said something to the effect of there's somebody out there with half your IQ who's accomplishing 10x what you are because they're not smart enough to doubt themselves.
Because you get a lot of people who everything is planning, but the execution, because the execution is where you get to find out, is it a good idea or not? That's where you face rejection. Mm-hmm. Every idea is a good idea in your head. And there are some people who are not able to deal with the idea that perhaps it's not the best idea. Perhaps reality is going to go, let's go back to the drawing board with this one. Mm-hmm. It's terrifying. It represents so much of what we're afraid of: wasted time, rejection, embarrassment. But the people who get far, they're the ones that embrace that. In fact, you know, one of my favorite sayings is, look, when you're living true to yourself, you look forward to being rejected, because that's the most efficient way to cut out the fluff. When someone like when you know it is not a good idea, when you know it's not going to work, when you know, and you know that because the market says, yo, this is some bullshit, you can go back with it. But if you take it personally, you'll never do it. And that's the problem. People take it personally.
The amount of time it takes to go through that process, like if you talk to a smart kid in high school and you're like, okay, how long did it take you to apply to colleges and stuff? It is a huge bureaucratic, time-consuming process. These kids could otherwise be spending time doing a whole bunch of cool side projects that are going to be really help their career. I mean, in programming, it's like you start a GitHub account in your high school and you start programming some things. People are going to notice and they're going to be impressed, right? Mm-hmm. It's like a proof of work. You don't have time for that if you're applying to colleges and writing these bullshit essays. Where you got to pretend that you're going to the college for a reason other than the obvious reason you go to a prestigious college, which is you want to make a lot of money, right?
Most of the people that I've spoken to that are successful are curious. That's probably the single most common trend that I see. They're led forward by a desire to find out about the world. And that seems to be a very robust way to motivate yourself to go forward. I think you can work out whether you're having a good life, because if you wake up in the morning and you're gassed about your day, if you're excited when you wake up, things are probably going well. And these are the people that wake up and they're excited about what they get to learn. That seems to be a really, really good marker, and that's something that I see between most of the people that I speak to.
The time gap between when you learn something and when you put it into practice. For universities, it's, unless you're like performing an experiment in the lab, it's years. You won't find out for especially in fast-moving fields like marketing. I took a marketing class in college. I didn't discover for about 6 years that it was not useful, right? I mean, this focus on individualism. Yeah. It's wild that all our learning is done solo. You can't look at any, I mean, of course you can't look at anyone's test. You can't borrow from anyone's essay. You can't get help. At the most you can do a study group, but it's kind of like frowned upon. And then you step out into the professional world, everything is collaborative. You don't do anything by yourself. All you're doing is looking at other people's work and borrowing bits and pieces and models.
This zero-sum mindset thing is a real plague. It's a big problem. People need to understand that life is not a zero-sum game. Money is not a zero-sum game. Health and fitness is not a zero-sum game. Relationships and dating or whatever, these things are not zero-sum. And one of the amazing things about the world, one of the coolest things with all the diversity we have in humanity is there are millions of games to play. And you only need to be really good at one to be successful, right? So, I mean, just look at jobs and career. Like, how many different ways are there to make money? Right? So, you can't make it in the NBA. You're not 6'6" and amazing at basketball. Do you know what? There's another million things that you can create in this day and age. You can even create your own thing. Like, look at what we both do for a living. Like we'd probably struggle to explain this to like our great grandparents and be like, wait, you do what for a living? That's not a job. Like, what do you mean? Like, well, you have a podcast where you sit and you talk to people? Like, wait, you do it, none of it, no level of it makes any sense. And it's just like, that's awesome. So you don't need to, if you're not competitive in a particular field or you're just not interested in it, it's like, cool. Like, you can just get in where you fit in, man. Like, we all have a different pool of talents. We all have different experiences and interests and personalities. And that's dope, because if we didn't, the world wouldn't even work, because the way everything works with free trade is we all have different services and products that we can offer that other people find value in, and we're all constantly exchanging. That's literally what the economy is. People have been brainwashed to think the economy is like some stock ticker or something. And this is the point I was making back in 2020 when they were locking down and shutting down. And I was like, yo, you're crushing the economy. People are like, you care more about the economy than human. I'm like, bro, human lives rely on the economy, and we are the economy, right? Like, our ability to interact and trade and do all, like, this is what gives everything value and also gives us meaning and purpose.